He denied the black baby at birth. Yeah, that's right. Flat out denied her. Didn't even blink. You know what's wild? Nearly 3 decades later, that same little girl steps into the courtroom wearing a judge's robe and addresses him with the coldest, most formal voice I've ever heard. Mr. Carson, are you prepared to proceed? That was the moment Harrison Carson, senior partner, legal legend, always 5 steps ahead, almost crumpled right there on the marble floor of Richmond County Courthouse. I mean, if karma ever had a sense of timing, this was it. He was 58, living proof that you could outrun most of your demons if you ran fast enough and made the right deals. Harrison's firm was about to crack the Westridge Pharmaceuticals case. Class action, millions on the table, big headlines, a shot at retiring as the guy whose name meant power. His associate, Sharon, bustled after him, reciting logistics like the world depended on it. But when she told him there'd been a last-minute judge reassignment, his heart nearly stopped. Who's presiding? Judge Ruth Thompson, she said, and he almost dropped his briefcase. The name hit him like an old injury you thought had healed but aches every time it rains. See, nearly 30 years ago, Harrison was just a hungry young lawyer with all the right family connections and not a drop of courage. He got involved with Magda Thompson, a brilliant black law student interning at his dad's firm. She got pregnant. He denied everything, called her a liar, leaned on family friends to bury her accusations, and walked away like none of it had ever happened. The cost? His conscience. But hey, his reputation stayed spotless. Now he was staring at the empty judge's bench, running those old memories on repeat. When Ruth Thompson finally entered, black robes, steady voice, maybe a flash of his own jawline in her face, he felt the ground tilt. There she was, the living, breathing consequence of his cold calculations, her mother's brown skin, his mother's cheekbones, and a presence that filled the courtroom. She scanned the room, caught his eyes for half a heartbeat. Nothing, just icy professionalism. Why would she recognize him? He'd never been there for her, never even seen her before. Mr. Carson, are you prepared to proceed with your motions today? Her tone was all business, but Harrison could barely get his reply out. Inside, panic was clawing at his composure. He knew things about Ruth, her whole resume, top of her class, Harvard Law, youngest judge on the circuit, the works, because he'd had her quietly investigated the minute her name popped up as a possible appointee. But he didn't know if she knew about him. And what he didn't know, what he couldn't have prepared for, was that Ruth had just uncovered the truth. Someone sent her a package of old photos, letters, even a DNA report. She'd spent the night before her first day on this case piecing together the story of a father she'd been told was dead. Court moved on. Arguments, motions, technical language. But Harrison was drowning in memory. Ruth ran the courtroom with absolute control, never hinting at the bomb about to drop. Then, after adjourning for the day, she called him aside. Mr. Carson, a word, she said, and led him into chambers. Her gaze didn't soften. She didn't blink. She just told him straight. She'd found out who he was, and that she was his daughter. May I ask how you obtained my DNA? He tried, grasping at control. She shut that down with a single line. That's an interesting assumption, and revealed she'd gotten it from a glass he'd used at a bar association event. The test was conclusive, 99.8%. He was her biological father. What happened next wasn't a teary reunion, not even close. Ruth laid out the facts. Her mother had told her he was dead, but she'd grown up always feeling like a shadow was following her. Questions that had no answers. Now, face to face with the man who'd abandoned her, she demanded to know why. Why deny her? Why vanish? Why leave Magda to struggle alone? Harrison had no answer worth giving. He stammered about expectations, pressure, career, but Ruth's anger and her pain burned through every excuse. You could have been a man of character. You chose not to be, she said, and it landed like a verdict. Before he could reply, a knock interrupted. Ruth's clerk came in with news. A motion had been filed demanding her recusal, complete with forged marriage and death certificates claiming her husband, had died from a Westridge product. Ruth was floored. She'd never been married. The documents were fake, and someone was clearly trying to sabotage her. Was it Harrison? No, he was just as blindsided. Then his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We know about your daughter. Choose wisely in court today, or everyone will know." Blackmail, plain as day. He showed Ruth. Suddenly, they weren't just judge and counsel. They were two people being squeezed by the same thread. Back in the courtroom, with rumors swirling and the recusal motion shot down as a fraud, Harrison faced an impossible choice. The same anonymous source sent him an email demanding he present a doctored expert report in court, one that would sabotage his own case. If he refused, they'd go public with the secret of Ruth's parentage and his abandonment. The threat wasn't just his career, it was her reputation too. For a second, he thought about caving. But sitting there, seeing Ruth's strength and her commitment to justice, he snapped out of it. When the time came, he stood up and told the judge, his daughter, about the tampering, the blackmail, the fraud. A gasp swept the courtroom. Ruth called a recess, brought Harrison and the rival counsel into chambers, and the floodgates opened. That's when it got really ugly. The source of the blackmail? Harrison's own brother, Rodney, a jealous, bitter man with a chip on his shoulder the size of Richmond. Rodney had been paid off by Peter West, the CEO of Westridge, who was desperate to keep a set of incriminating emails sealed. When all the dots were connected, it turned out Westridge Pharmaceuticals had knowingly marketed a deadly drug to Black communities, hiding evidence that it caused fatal reactions in people with a particular genetic marker. Hundreds had died, most of them Black, and the company had buried the truth, betting they'd never get caught. When the FBI and the U.S. attorney got involved, Westridge tried one last desperate play, threatening Ruth with fake allegations against her late mother. But the evidence was already out. Ruth, unflinching, called it for what it was, an attempt to intimidate a federal judge. Harrison, finally seeing the cost of running from his own past, withdrew from the case on the spot and offered a sworn statement against Westridge. Westridge was arrested in the courtroom, losing it completely on the way out, shouting accusations at Ruth and Harrison both. The media pounced. The DNA results went public, headline news, viral stories about the secret daughter of Richmond's top attorney. Harrison's firm wanted to bury the scandal, but there was no going back. Worse still, that night, Peter Westridge was found dead in his cell, apparently by suicide, and the story broke wide open. Leaked files, racial targeting, corruption, and the Carson family drama laid bare for everyone to see. The next morning, Harrison met Ruth alone in her chambers. The walls were down, the robes put away. He apologized, not as a lawyer or a colleague, but as the father who'd never been there. He owned up to the selfishness, the cowardice, the lies. Ruth listened, arms crossed, her face unreadable. She told him the truth. She tried to hate him, but mostly she just felt sad for all they'd missed. For her mother's sacrifices, for growing up thinking her father was dead, for the relationship they'd never had. But Ruth was her mother's daughter, tough, compassionate, unwilling to let bitterness win. She wasn't ready to forgive, not yet, but she was willing to see what happened next. "My mother always believed in second chances," she said. "Not for your sake, but for mine and hers. I'm willing to try." It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't redemption wrapped in a bow, but it was honest, and it was a start. Harrison stepped out onto the courthouse steps and faced the reporters with Ruth standing behind him. No more running, no more hiding. 29 years ago, I made the worst mistake of my life, he said, voice steady. And today I'm finally trying to make it right. So tell me, does justice mean exposing every ugly secret, no matter how long it's been hidden? Is it possible to fix a life you broke, or do some wounds never fully heal? I want to know what you think about family, about responsibility, about what it means to really make things right. Share your thoughts below, because some stories are bigger than the people in them, and some reckonings, well, they're long overdue.